behind the scenes at SKOR North and 1500 ESPN have sports opinions, so they want you to hear them. It's the perfect digital sports soapbox to scratch that Minnesota sports itch. This is the SKOR North Taxi Squad.
Welcome into another episode of the SKOR North Taxi Squad, available on SKORNorth.com, the SKOR North mobile app, Apple, Spotify, and if you want to see our ugly mugs, check us out on the SKOR North YouTube channel. I'm one of your cabbies on duty today, Jason Stormer, joined with the usual guys. We got AJ Fredrickson and Artis Woods. Guys, hope you're having a wonderful day today, because I know Vikings fans had a pretty awesome weekend of football. Against all odds, the Pastronaut himself, Josh Dobbs, lead the Minnesota Vikings to an improbable, I don't know exactly what the word is, 31-28 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. It was an absolute crazy game, one of the craziest regular seasons games that the Vikings have had that I can really remember. And guys, just to start off the show, how are we feeling about this team after just an insane game?
Man, I mean, I don't even know.
I know, right?
I don't even, this team is, and I said this about them last year, and I think it applies again this year. They're super resilient, bro. They had an opportunity after Jaren Hall went down to pack it in. They had an opportunity after Justin Jefferson went down to pack it in. They had an opportunity when Kirk Cousins went down to pack it in. And despite losing arguably their two best players, or at least two of their best players, and their backup rookie quarterback, they still come out and play one hell of a game. I don't even know how to really like Josh Dobbs came out there, and I mean he had some rough moments. Started off a little slow, had an ugly safety, weird plays here and there, but used his legs, got going, and led a game-winning drive at the end of the game. We almost got that tie for a second.
It was
that
close.
AJ was predicting, which was nuts. He hit the group chat for the people who don't know. Obviously, nobody else knows but us, but he hit the group chat like, guys, it might happen. Let's get by the phone for the FaceTime. But no, it was an incredible game to watch. I thought the defense played really well in the first half. I wasn't too impressed in the second half, but they did what needed to be done in order to get the win, or at least put the Vikings in position to get the win by not giving up too many points in the first half. Was able to force a turnover there on Heineke, which was pivotal late in the game. But I just thought, I mean, after watching a game like that, it's hard not to be optimistic. Now, obviously, they got the Saints coming up, and that's going to be an interesting test. I want to see what's going on with Hall moving forward as well. But, I mean, I don't know how, as a Vikings fan, you can't be at least optimistic. I mean, Josh Dobbs. Now, I do think it'll be different. Teams will have, if Dobbs starts this week, which I'm not sure if he will. I assume he will, but we'll see. Teams will have that week now to prepare. One of the best pass defenses in the league will have a week now to prepare for Josh Dobbs. So we'll see, because it's a little different when you thrust a guy in there last minute, because teams don't necessarily prepare for that guy to be in there. So we'll see how that looks. Justin Jefferson is back practicing now. Don't know if he'll play this week. Probably not, but maybe. Who knows? Don't want to speculate about that, but at least he's back. I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard not to be optimistic about what this team could do. You can't count them out because of how they've been playing, man. It's impressive to watch for sure.
Yeah, no, like you said, it's hard to not be a little optimistic and kind of just have good vibes all around regarding that win. Bad news, you lose Cam Akers. Bad news, Jaren Hall, despite looking all right on that opening drive, who knows what happens with him now? Because if Josh Dobbs, everything goes terrible. We had first off, we had the safety. That's how I knew 2020 Ty was dead in the water. There's no chance they were getting. I needed a missed extra point just for a chance. I was like, no, we're not doing that. But no, Josh Dobbs, he didn't take a snap in practice leading up to Sunday. He was working with the O-line to get the snap cadence down ahead of it, their first drive. KOC was in his ear, in the headset before plays, pretty much telling him, hey, this is what's going to happen. Here's your first read. If it's not there, run, book it. But the thing about that too, is you only have 25 seconds or so. And I think the comms automatically turn off 15 or 10 seconds before the snap, or the end of the play clock, I should say. So I think that is due to in part why we saw such, just put it frankly, terrible football for his, the very start of his tenure as a Viking. But you take away the safety, You take away the fumble that was returned back to like the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a day for him. He exceeded, I think. I mean, there was really no expectations for him, so it was not hard to exceed, but he blew them out of the water. He was fantastic. He had I think the highest QBR of the week with the safety and the fumble. I knew he had some legs, but it was weird to see a quarterback wearing purple that was mobile. It was refreshing.
Yeah.
Shifty, quick, not afraid to just and granted he kind of had to given the circumstances, but he didn't like it. Perfect. Let's get out of the pocket. Let's run. That 4th and 7 late to get the first down to extend that game-winning drive. I mean, chef's kiss. It was tremendous. So, like you said, it's hard to not be a little optimistic. I'm excited to see what him and KOC now with a full week, what they can do. It's the Saints. The Saints defense is going to be a lot better, I think, than the Falcons. They're a great pass defense, and that's the thing that the Vikings, I think, are going to have to rely on, despite not having KJ Osborne after his injury this past weekend, still not having Justin Jefferson. I know he was designated back to like return to practices, but it sounds like it's a better chance than not that he doesn't even like think about suiting up this weekend. Jordan Addison and Brandon Powell are now your wide receiver 1 and 2. TJ Hawkinson is still there, but the passing defense of the Saints, that's their bread and butter. So Alexander Mattison, you're going to have to step up. I know, like, fantasy wise, you had a pretty decent day this past weekend. I want to see you run the ball. Like, this is why they went with you this past, and not because it was the cap hit as well, but they had faith in you and they have relied on you for whatever reason through these first 9 games. They've stuck with Alexander Mattison as like, that's our number 1 guy. Even in the instances where Cam Akers he came in and he had like a 20-yard run and he's hitting holes and blah, blah, blah. And he looked productive. Like, if you give him more of a workload, he could break something open. They've stuck by Alexander Mattison. This is going to have to be a game where Alexander Mattison really buckles down and says, all right, I am running back 1. I am your bell cow. Because Ty Chandler preseason, he was putting the ball on the ground a lot. I think that was the big knock there. We're going to have to see what him and maybe Kene Nwangwu can do as the kind of secondary parts to Alexander Mattison. But Alexander Mattison is going to have to step up big time against the Saints because it's going to be an RB duel. And he's got Alvin Kamara, who, since his suspension was lifted, he has been on a tear. This guy looks like he has not missed a beat. He's still, I think, maybe almost under the radar, has like resubmitted himself into like that elite running back category. Obviously, I think Christian McCaffrey is the creme de la creme this season so far, but he is up there for that top 5 conversation, no doubt. Derek Carr is more than capable. Depending on the week, I should say. Sometimes he takes it. Sometimes he takes it off, but he's got weapons. Chris Olave has been fantastic. And it's going to be another good test for Brian Flores. And I think this is where the hiring of Brian Flores is going to come out and probably pay off more so, because they're going to put up points. But I think Brian Flores is going to limit the Saints about as well as anybody else can. So this is going to be a fun week. I don't know how confident I am that they're going to get the win. I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic about this team than I was a week ago. But I'm not sure that it's going to be a walk in the park come Sunday against the Saints.
Yeah, even though it was a thrilling 31-28 victory for the Vikings over the Falcons, one of the most fun in regular season history for the team, underrated storyline really was the injuries that happened in this game for Minnesota, losing Cam Akers to another torn Achilles. I feel so bad for him. It was his other Achilles too, not the same Achilles. And it's just best of luck to Cam Akers rehabbing from that, because that is just a terrible blow to his season and also potentially to his career. But Christian Darrisaw, guys, a late scratch, very head scratching, if you ask me. There were no indications throughout the week that really there were going to be any issues with him. But this has kind of happened before with Christian Darrisaw, where just all of a sudden, 24 hours before the game, all of a sudden, oh, he can't go, or he tweaks something and practice. Like, it's It's concerning because this has happened before with him. And obviously, if Josh Dobbs is going to be our starting quarterback moving forward, obviously he's earned the right to do that to start against the Saints. And unless he has a really terrible game, he'll probably continue to be the starting quarterback moving forward. But I need our offensive line to be extremely healthy throughout this time. And if Christian Darrisaw is having issues, that's going to be a problem. Thankfully, pretty much everybody else is doing okay, like Garrett Bradbury, Brian O'Neill, Ed Ingram, and Dalton Reisner as well. But man, I do feel bad for Jaren Hall, guys. That is a pretty tough blow to be dealt. You get your first NFL start, you get into the game, you get a series in, and you look promising too. Went 5 of 6, 78 yards. It looked pretty good with a rating of 118 for Jaren Hall before he got knocked out with a concussion. And then he does get knocked out with that concussion, and circumstances happen like this, and now he's not going to be a starting quarterback, at least for this upcoming week. You just kind of feel bad for the guy. Now, granted, he's still in concussion protocol, so even if, Hall was able to play the entirety of the Falcons game, there's no guarantee that he'd actually be able to suit up against the Saints. But man, it's just, you wait your turn, and you finally get this opportunity. And he's a young man. It's only he's young, so he's got plenty of career left. But man, that just got to be a gut punch for Jaren Hall. But just Joshua Dobbs, guys, exceeded all possible expectations that you can have for a guy that's thrown into that kind of circumstance. I said last week that I was terrified if the Vikings started Josh Dobbs because I didn't want a Josh Freeman situation to happen all over again. And when he got put into the game and when he got tackled for that safety, I was like, admittedly, oh man, here we go. Here are the troubles that kind of happen to a team when you're dealing with this kind of situation. But he stepped up, was able to get a touchdown drive before the end of the half, I believe, and was able to at least go into the half going like, all right, guys, don't worry. We've been dealt a pretty crappy situation here, but we're going to make the most of this, and we're going to go out and win this ball game. And man, just the reactions of the locker room after the game was so cool. The entire team embracing Josh Dobbs, a guy that, honestly, like you guys mentioned, he didn't even know his teammates' names. Yep. I mean, he was literally hiking the ball with Garrett Bradbury. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's get the cadence down. What's your name again? Oh, Garrett. Okay, cool. Nice to meet you, Garrett. Right. It was just an insane situation. Like I mentioned, one of the craziest regular season games that the Vikings have been a part of, probably the craziest one since probably the Colts game or the Bills game last year. Those games were probably a step above in terms of craziness than this one, but still, just the circumstances. I don't remember really. I mean, it was that Josh Freeman game on Monday night against the Giants where I don't remember the Vikings having to deal with a situation like this, but that went horribly. And this one just absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, and moving forward, guys, honestly, the other thing I kind of got a taste of watching this game was just the potential of what Kevin O'Connell can do with the quarterback not necessarily named Kirk Cousins. I think more so than ever, I'm convinced that Kevin O'Connell might actually be a quarterback whisperer. You can be a really good offensive coach in the NFL, but you might have, more specialty in a certain area of the offense, maybe a receiver or a running back. You might not necessarily be a quarterback whisperer, but what Kevin O'Connell was able to do in such a short amount of time, and obviously Josh Dobbs deserves a ton of credit too, has me just really, really encouraged that no matter what the future entails for the Minnesota Vikings and who is going to be on the roster next season, I think we got a pretty dang good head coach that if a situation like this arises again, I'm going to feel pretty dang confident that at least the coaching staff is going to have these players in a position where they can still go out and win a ball game. Doesn't mean it's going to happen every single time because, some hills are a little bit too tough to climb. But in the Vikings case against the Atlanta Falcons this past Sunday, that was not the case. And if Kevin O'Connell can do this with a guy like Josh Dobbs, I'm morbidly curious to see what he's going to be able to do with a guy that, he potentially drafts or brings in. And really, it just identifies as a guy. It's like, that is my guy. He was able to do all of this on the fly and was still able to get his group to put a great effort out on the field. So as much as there's going to be so much reckless speculation on the Vikings offseason, no matter what, this game is just leaving me very hopeful that we are in the hands of a very competent coaching staff, that no matter who is on the roster, we got guys that are coaching these players that are able to maximize them to insanely awesome degrees that we were able to do with Josh Dobbs here this past Sunday.
And not only do you have guys in the coaching staff, you also got great weapons like we've been talking about now. Obviously, KJ is out. Obviously, JJ's out. You got some injuries. Obviously, Cam Akers, like you said, went out during the game. But when guys are healthy, you have some viable options. And Powell has been balling, bro. Like, he's just been making plays.
Yeah,
like, I don't know if I want to say balling, but like, he's a guy that's out there just making plays. He seems to be in the right place at the right time. Caught the game winning touchdown. Like, he just seems to be a guy that is just they're making plays. It's like defenses kind of forget he's out there almost. Like, no disrespect to him, but I'm just saying, like, it just feels like there's Powell again, like making big plays, third downs, game winning touchdown. Like, he's there. He got great hands, shifty, breaks tackles. It's hard to get to the ground. I do have a question for you guys, though.
Yeah.
Because this has been on my mind since Jaren Hall got hurt. Personally, I liked what I saw in the limited time he was out there. He went out with a concussion. Dobbs went in there and, again, started a little rocky, but played extremely well. I'm going to ask this question, then I'm going to answer it, and I'm going to pitch it to you guys. Do you guys believe that when he's healthy, he should be inserted back in the lineup? Personally, me, I think you're in the same position that you were just in just last week with knowing what Josh Dobbs is for the most part. Because as great as he looked, it's going to look different when teams game plan for him. I mean, the man dropped back, broke the pocket and ran to the right side of the field probably 40 times, it felt like, throughout the game, and was able to get that just wide open field for a touchdown, wide open for a crucial fourth down. He was able to break the pocket and roll to the same side countless times. Or defenses are going to see that. Defenses are going to game plan for that and are going to slow that down at some point. Not to say he's not a decent quarterback, not to say he can't come in and make plays and win games, but it's not going to look – I don't believe it'll look that impressive, going forward, knowing that now teams, okay, this is who you got out there. This is what we expect. This is how we're going to game plan to slow that down. You still don't fully know what you have in the young rookie in Jaren Hall. And I understand how one would say you don't want to break the momentum of a guy like Dobbs who came in and made plays and led the team on a game-winning drive and win the game ultimately. You don't want to break up the camaraderie in the locker room. You talked about how great the locker room was after the game. But at the same time, I want to see more. Maybe it's just a selfish thing for me. I want to see more of the rookie. I want to see more of what he's got, because even though he went down, I was like, hey, yeah, he's looking pretty good. And it was unfortunate the injury happened, but I do not believe he should lose his starting job based off of that particular injury to Josh Dobbs, who we know who he is already. That's my take. I think that when he's healthy, I think he should be inserted back in the lineup. Now, if Josh Dobbs goes out there and just dominates the Saints, it's going to make this conversation a lot harder. But I think if Josh Dobbs reverts back to who he was with the Cardinals in his next game, or is anything similar to that and doesn't have as good of a game, I think when Hall is ready, I think you put him back in the lineup and see what you have. What do you guys think?
If you're, if you got me a knife point and I have to answer this question tonight, I'm going to say you let Dobbs steer the ship until there's a leak. It's a question where I think you have to, this has to be asked Monday or Sunday night after the game even, let me digest it. Let me take in the full Josh Dobbs experience. Because yes, he, to your point, he did do a lot of the same stuff, and it's probably going to be telegraphed and all that stuff. And, it probably wouldn't work again. Honestly, it probably wouldn't. But that's just because he literally didn't know the guys' names. That's true. He didn't have a single practice snap in the 72 hours leading up to Sunday. So I need to see an actual game where he got to sit down, because he's a smart guy. Jason said his nickname that was dubbed to him, the Pastronaut. I prefer Dobby the Red Zone Elf, personally. But
Merry Christmas, everyone. It's not even Thanksgiving. Sorry.
A little ahead of ourselves there. That's all right. That's all right.
I was in Kohl's the other day. Well, actually, I was in Kohl's before Halloween, and they were already playing Christmas music. So, I mean, this is capitalism in America.
There we go. Shoot, where was I? Oh, yeah. Here we go. When it comes to it, I need to see the full experience of him getting to be able to, have a week with Kevin O'Connell. And granted, that's not even enough time, but he's a smart guy. He's a literal rocket scientist. He is smarter than most average humans. So if it takes a normal quarterback, and this is just a base figure I'm throwing out for the sake of easy, whatever, a month. a month to like get a system down after being acquired midseason, let's cut it in half for Josh Dobbs. You know, this is a guy who has had to learn like 5 different offenses in a span of almost 2-ish years. This is not his first rodeo. He knows the system. He's probably got a plan in place on what he finds the most efficient way to look through the playbook, how to memorize what things are. Now he's going to have a full week of realizing, okay, maybe Brandon Powell shouldn't be my first option in the red zone here. Maybe it should be Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
You know, not that 4 can't catch the ball. He did in a very clutch moment. So ups to him. And like, to your point, people almost forget he's out there. Frankly, I do too while watching. So that was a real refreshing touchdown. But, you know, he's going to be a little more familiar with what his weapons are and who he should probably look to. What's the first read going to be on this play? And if not, now I have a second read, because it's not just that's not there. Sweet. Let's run. So I do expect less scrambling this weekend, because he should be more prepared if the first option isn't there. And against the Saints defense, it shouldn't. But if it's, you know, mediocre, if I don't get wowed, and I don't even need to be wowed, just like if I don't, you know how you eat like a burger, sometimes you go out and afterwards you're in the car and you're just like, I just feel bad about myself. You know, if I have one of those like that, it's a long lasting like yuck after the game.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hesitate to go back to Jaron Hall. I think it also heavily depends on, do you win or lose? You can't replace the guy if he's winning.
Yeah.
You know,
that's tough.
He pulled a W out of his hat for the, you know, I don't want to keep saying it, but for no preparation whatsoever. If he can do it again with some preparation, you have to keep going. And it's tough because given where he came in, this is the ideal situation. You have weapons, and granted, they're dropping like flies at the time with injuries, but you're possibly set to get your best weapon back here in the coming weeks. The schedule at the moment, it's not like they're playing the Chiefs like they were earlier this season. You have a run of teams that you should be able to beat. The Saints arguably might be the toughest one out of this little stretch that they have.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and Kevin O'Connell's your coach. Like you saw what he did. Jason just had it to the point of, is he a quarterback whisperer? And you have a defense, which the Minnesota Vikings have not been able to say in a couple years now. Yeah. So this is about as good as we're going to throw you in there, man. Just do your thing, sit type of situation as it could be. And if he's thriving in that, I would find it borderline illegal to break that up. So we'll talk about it after the game on Sunday, but my goodness, to think right now that like, if he's no symptoms whatsoever, I don't think you can even sniff the possibility of Jaron Hall starting on Sunday.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't. I would definitely give him some time off after
Absolutely.
that hit he took. And again, no.
Yeah.
No. And I basically echo pretty much everything that AJ said. Until Josh Dobbs actually starts playing bad, I mean, you can't take him off the field at this point. I'm so excited to see what a full week of preparation is like with this guy, what he's going to be able to do. In a weird way, I actually expect him to play worse against the Saints than he did against the Falcons. To be honest, I think a lot of that game was adrenaline for not only him, but the entire team as well. I mean, they went out and executed their plays. They got the job done. They deserve all the credit. But I could definitely see a little bit of an emotional letdown coming against the Saints. I still don't anticipate Josh Dobbs to be brutal to the point where we will be considering, well, even if Jaron Hall can't play this week, I mean, we might be talking about like Sean Mannion being the backup quarterback. And I know most Vikings fans don't really want to potentially see Sean Mannion out there. But honestly, guys, the ship has kind of already sailed in terms of money-making opportunities with the Vikings and Josh Dobbs, because I believe his jersey is already on the top shelf of racks at the Vikings team stores right next to like Justin Jefferson and stuff like that. So the team is already making a ton of money off of Josh Dobbs jersey sales. So they definitely want him to be the starting quarterback on Sunday too. That's kind of how that kind of thing works. Yes, AJ?
To interrupt you really quick, you mentioned like the whole adrenaline thing. I don't know about you guys. I'm a big intangible guy. Like I love stats and I love the underlying analytics, but intangibles are just something that it's just like they tickle that part of your brain. And if you're telling me that he's got the adrenaline and he's able to like hone that in and just like go racehorse with the blinders on like, here's my goal. Nothing's going to stop me in my way. If he's got that clutch gene, that like, I'm just going to be the guy here for a second. I'm just going to turn into the guy. Oh boy. I mean,
Oh boy.
And granted, you sent a 6th-round pick for him or a 7th or whatever it was. You usually don't have it, but if he doesn't have like the top tier talent, but he has the intangibles, Kevin O'Connell's going to probably make that work. What's the old, that dog will do more than just hunt. You hear what I'm saying?
So
yep.
I guess. Okay. Last question before we quickly move on.
Yeah.
My only pushback on this is: do you guys believe that Josh Dobbs is the guy?
No, as of tonight,
as of right now,
as of going forward
for 2020 for this season.
I'm talking about this season and going, because we don't know what's going to happen with Kirk this offseason.
Just this season, just for the rest of the season.
So then my question is,
I'll answer both.
Say Kirk Cousins. So say my bad, AJ,
No.
but I want to say this. Say Kirk Cousins, hypothetically speaking, and I kind of do believe he'll resign, but say he doesn't resign, and you've played Josh Dobbs this whole season. Well, you're probably going to bring in another quarterback to start at that point, if not resign Josh Dobbs, right? When are you going to find out if Jaren Hall is the guy? Because, what if he's the guy? It's possible. Again, it was quick. He was out of there early. It's very high expectations. We don't know. It's a lot of unknowns. But I like Jaren Hall, y'all.
No,
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what the ceiling is.
I know,
but I like what I see. Like what I see.
And this is the bummer thing about like these kind of opportunities that present themselves and then just get taken away immediately. Because until Josh Dobbs does something catastrophic, he will be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. He just will. Man, yeah, you're right, Artis. The intrigue will always be there for Jaren Hall, but I mean, if this team is about continuing to put up wins and stuff like that, we have to keep going with this. We just do. Yeah. Now, a week ago, it was fair to bring up the question of just like what the future of the rest of the Vikings season was going to be going into this Falcons game. We didn't know how this team was going to respond without Kirk Cousins. And they responded as best as you could possibly do. And so now I think it's given the fans and the team just a little bit more of a little bit of life to continue pushing on for this season. Unfortunately, at least for 2023, Jaren Hall might just have to be a big what if. And if he doesn't get a chance to show us more of what he's got this season, then I don't know how confident I can be in like making him the guy in 2024. Now, I think there would be more indications in practice and stuff like that. If Jaren Hall truly was like really, really, really legit, I think we might know by now, maybe. At least there would be more buzz internally about it. Obviously, we wouldn't see a lot of playing time on the field with him, but I think there would just be more. There'd be more of a buzz, I would think. Because like I remember when Justin Jefferson, like his first training camp and everything like that, like the beat reporters and everything were losing their minds about how awesome he was. And of course, my expectations were tempered a little bit because like it's a rookie and he hasn't played an NFL game. Like let's hold on a little bit. And it looked a little off at first with JJ, but then Mike Zimmer finally, got it together and started using him effectively, and the rest is absolute history. So it's a crappy situation if you're Jaren Hall for sure. But the writing's on the wall. Josh Dobbs totally elevated your team to a place where you didn't really think it could get back to this season, and he did it in 5 days. You just have to keep rolling with it. And unfortunately, Jaren Hall might have to be a what if throughout the rest of the season, maybe even next year too.
So it sounds like the two and I just want to preface here that this is to declare Josh Dobbs the guy on November 8th after 3 quarters or something like that of NFL football with the Minnesota Vikings is ludicrous. And I think everybody watching is smart enough to realize that. We're doing hypotheticals here.
Yes,
of course.
This is not
exactly.
This is a serious conversation, but not a serious conversation.
Right.
So option A, they get to the end of the season, Kirk re-signs. Frankly, I can live with it. Mm-hmm. It really depends on how he comes back after the injury. The guy was, I said it last week. He was elite. He was Kirk elite Cousins.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately it comes to a grinding halt. But you go the other way. The way that they can use Josh Dobbs is kind of it's a coin flip situation where maybe He's the guy until he's not for this season. Right now he's winning, and if you're going to keep winning, then he's the guy automatically. Frankly, that's just how it is. In the sport of football, if you're winning, you are the guy, especially a quarterback. But if you get to a point where he starts stumbling, you've dropped a couple games in a row, all of a sudden you dropped, divisional games, and now we can't win the division anymore, and we have like a 8% chance of making the wild card. Get Jaren Hall back in there, because then you can at least see what the rookie's got. Like you said, you know what Josh Dobbs is. He's had his time in the league. You should have more than enough film to decide what he is. We've not seen Jaren Hall other than a quick flash in the pan before, he got his head smacked on the ground at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I would like to see more. But if you go the path opposite of Kirk in the offseason, you can use that lower cap to then you can draft somebody, because I know you have your guys who are going to go early, and frankly, the Vikings are not going to be in the top 5. They're not going to be in the top 10. They're going to be 15-ish at the highest to like low 20s, and that's not going to be enough to, maybe not low 20s, but they're going to be in the middle of the first round. That's not going to be able to get like a good prospect quarterback that like is the top tier, I should say. But you can draft somebody and either, hey, Jaren, you're gonna have to duel it out with him, or something, something along those lines. But having that lower cap hit would allow you to search for that predecessor, because you can stick him in there, and you've seen that he is like capable, and you're not expecting him to go out there and put up MVP type numbers. And frankly, that might frustrate some people, but it's not. It's not a lot of fun to do window shopping, Right. It's like, ooh, that'd be nice. I wish I could buy that. I wish I could get, that pocketbook. Or I wish I could get that dress, whatever. I wish I could get that elite NFL QB prospect that is mobile, and he's got a cannon of an arm, and he's got that winner alpha mentality, and he's the guy, and blah, blah, blah. And he, put up the numbers in college. The Vikings just don't. They can window shop all they want, but at the end of the day, window shopping is not for the middle of the first round. You're not going to actually walk into the store, hand the money, aka the pick ticket, to the commissioner and say, Roger Goodell, I'd like to purchase that. I'd like to select that quarterback. You're not going to do that. So having that lower cap hit allows the Vikings to search the waters a little bit. You can find that diamond in the rough. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was not the first quarterback off the board in his draft. Granted, for what he's going to be at the end of his career, he slipped, Yeah. The Chiefs, frankly, got a little lucky there. Yeah. And as Vikings fans know, they do not get lucky. The Minnesota Vikings never get lucky. No. But what if? You just go the opposite route? And what if they do strike gold? What's the classic? It's like a betting meme where it's like two guys mining for diamonds or gold or whatever. And one guy stops and he's just shy. The other guy's going to keep going. The Vikings, if they stop looking for a quarterback, they're never going to find it. You got to keep going, because when you hit that mine, when you hit that pit of diamonds, that gold reservoir and the giant nugget, oh God, it's going to pay dividends. You're going to go
especially
ballistic.
In this offense.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, you have the weapons. So the exciting part to wrap it all up is, no matter what, it should be entertaining, because it's either you have the narrative of Kirk Cousins staying with the Vikings because he loves being a Viking, and frankly, he's a good guy. It's easy to root for him. Like, as a person, I think you can still root for a guy, but also critique his play as an NFL quarterback. That comes as part of the job, but you're able to root for him, and that's going to be an interesting storyline. It should be fun for fans. Or you embark on this new journey. You turn the page. You explain to Justin Jefferson, we're going to get you your next guy, so you're here forever, and you enjoy wearing purple, and you're catching touchdown passes like it's nobody's business, and you eventually can lift that Lombardi trophy, but we have to look before we can start walking. So either way, it should be entertaining. I enjoyed this conversation.
We enjoyed it too, AJ. Yeah. And AJ said it the best right there. Josh Dobbs has to be the guy moving forward until proven otherwise. He's been given this chance, and he gets it until otherwise. And I mean, Jaren Hall is more than welcome to do something about that in practice or anything like that. If he wants to force some hands, go right ahead. But right now, the Vikings' best chance to win, I think, is with Jaren Hall, and with Josh Dobbs. And I think most Vikings fans would agree about that. And I'm actually really excited to see how Josh is going to be embraced by the crowd at US Bank Stadium. I think he's probably going to be the last player out of the tunnel in introductions and everything like that. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. Probably going to be one of the most fun football games he will ever be a part of. And gentlemen, why don't we get into a preview of this Vikings-Saints game right now? Currently right now, the line is at 2.5 New Orleans with an over-under of 40.5. Looking at the injury report right now, Christian Darrisaw was able to get a limited participation practice in today. We're recording this on Wednesday, November 8th. But no surprise that Jaren Hall, KJ Osborne, they were DNPs, also limited participants today. Brian Asamoah, TJ Hawkinson, and Johnny Munt. And actually, with that hamstring, Justin Jefferson looks like he was a limited participant today, even though there are reports that it is pretty unlikely that Justin Jefferson is going to suit up against the New Orleans Saints this weekend. But maybe the weekend after against what do we play? The Broncos, I believe. I don't know. That's going to be a prime time game. Might be a prime time for Justin Jefferson to come back from that hamstring injury. But guys, let's get into a preview of this. I mentioned a chance of an emotional letdown for the Minnesota Vikings here in this game after a thrilling victory over the Atlanta Falcons. Is that going to happen here on Sunday, or do you think the Vikings will be able to carry over this astronomical momentum that they have developed over the last couple days?
AJ, you go first.
Okay, so first off, and I'm very surprised that the NFL did not flex that Vikings-Broncos game out because they now passed the deadline. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
But now we know that it's not going to be a Kirk Cousins-led primetime game. And granted, he did it earlier this year, so you can't really have that narrative where, he beat the 49ers in primetime, so there it is. But it's just like, who knows? It's going to be – the thing about this team the rest of the season, it's going to be entertaining, which I enjoy. Like, I don't believe they're going to win a Super Bowl right now at the current state they're in, but at least it's going to be entertaining the rest of the season, whether they are winning or losing. So, looking ahead to this game, Josh Dobbs.
Are you going to predict a tie again? You're going to predict a tie again, aren't you?
Nope, I burned my one tie. I will go tieless the rest of these.
Business casual for AJ moving forward.
This week, now that you said that would be hilarious.
If there's a tie this weekend, I will pick ties the rest of the season after this.
Beautiful.
Josh Dobbs gets a full week working with KOC and this offense. I know he's already been talking with Kirk Cousins about kind of maybe how to go about certain things and how to go about the playbook and whatnot. He's a smart guy. We've already talked about that, so I'm not going to exhaust that point again. The defense, I think, it's going to have to rely on Brian Flores. The Saints are going to score. It's not if you could stop them, it's how much you can contain them. I think we all remember the Alvin Kamara, 5 or 6 touchdown game from
Christmas. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. I mean, it gives me nightmares still. Like
terrible.
That
Worst
is
Christmas ever.
Full on Krampus type stuff. Just awful. So, the defense is going to have to do their best to contain the Saints offense, because I know I made a joke about it, but Derek Carr, like when he's on, he looks solid. I'm not going to say he's an elite quarterback, but the guy gets the job done. And plus, he's got Chris Olave. Michael Thomas, I know, is maybe not the receiver he used to be, but he shows flashes at times, which is more than enough. And they have a sneaky good under the radar guy in Rashid Shaheed, who is both not only good, but has a very fun name to say. So on top of that, Alvin Kamara, I already talked about that as well. On defense, I mean, they have Cameron Jordan. I mean, they have the pinnacle guys in Marshawn Lattimore and Cameron Jordan that have been there what feels like forever now. Right. People forget they have Tyrann Mathieu as well. Defense.
Yeah. Oh wow,
this Saints defense is not bad. They're a very good passing offense, and I think that's what the Vikings are going to have to rely on this weekend, which I think is why I am maybe not as confident as some other people are. I know the Saints are favored by a couple points. I side with Vegas in this one. I need Alexander Mattison to step up, and if he has a step-up type game, I think the Vikings win. I don't, unfortunately, because I don't think he's proven it to me yet. Maybe other Vikings fans feel this way. I don't feel like he has taken command of that RB1 position. He's not shown that he can lead the charge on the ground, establish the running game. I think he's going to put Josh Dobbs in a situation where they're going to have to throw the ball maybe a little more often than they probably want to. And that's going to be unfortunate. Josh Dobbs does bring a running game aspect that the Vikings haven't had in what feels like maybe a decade now. When's the last time they had a mobile quarterback?
Case Keenum. Honestly, Case Keenum.
and
I know he wasn't terribly mobile, but if you're talking about the similar plays, I mean, Case Keenum kind of. Really.
Yeah, and the thing is, the fact that you're saying Case Keenum, that shows like, I don't think anybody thinks Case Keenum is a mobile quarterback. So that's like the last mobile quarterback the Vikings have had. So
Christian Ponder, maybe?
He does add.
But we don't want to talk about Christian Ponder.
First name that came to mind for me was like Tavares Jackson. That was the first name I thought of, honestly.
T-Jack is probably the one that comes to mind for me. It's like the most recent. But they have that added spectrum to their game now. So I'll give them that. Unfortunately, though, I do think that the Saints probably win. I know it's at US Bank Stadium. I think last week was almost too good to be true. I'm glad they did get the win. I just think that the Saints probably edge it out just slightly. It's going to come down to the final few seconds. I'm going to say 20. Let me think about this for a second. 27-24 Saints.
Okay.
I'm going to go 20-17 Saints. I'm leaning the same way for basically the same exact reasons. The Saints defense is legit. I mean, they're top 10 overall, top 10 pass defense. And they're going to make their job hard on offense, the Vikings, that is, Josh Dobbs. Now, I do think he will be a little more comfortable because he'll know the system a lot better, or a little better at least, given the full week with KLC. Who knows, like you said, Jason, what KLC will draw up to make his job a lot easier. Hopefully they can get the running game going some so you can mix in some play action. They get the running game going, I mean, hey, all bets are off. Yeah. I don't believe in Derek Carr that much, honestly. Like you said, he's very streaky. He can make plays, but his good games are good. His bad games are bad, especially on the road. So that's kind of a wild card. And I do respect this Vikings defense with Brian Flores. It has played very good, a complete step up from last year, which is very refreshing to see. But I think ultimately, I believe the Saints defense will do just enough and force enough turnovers to limit the Vikings enough so that Derek Carr doesn't have to do too much. He won't have to go out there and put up 27, 30 points in order to get a win. So under those circumstances where he only has to score 20 points to get a win, I think that'll be enough for him to be able to do and accomplish. And I think that they will beat the Minnesota Vikings 22-17.
Yeah, honestly, considering how kind of poor the Saints played against the Chicago Bears and Tyson Bagent last week, I'm not really high on this team. The defense is still there. Yes, absolutely. But the running defense isn't as good as the pass defense for the Saints. They are a top 5 pass defense in the NFL, but their run defense is like bottom 10 in yards per carry, and I believe also in touchdowns allowed as well. So if Alexander Mattison is going to have like that, I don't know, let's say 20 carries for 140 yards or something like that, this is an ample opportunity to be able to do that. Honestly, the guy that we haven't mentioned yet that I'm probably most scared of, because I mean, he's also been on my fantasy team the last couple of weeks, and I've gotten a up close and a personal look at him, is Taysom Hill. He has been the Swiss Army knife of this team for several years, even going back to the Sean Payton days. You don't know any given Sunday if he's going to be a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end. He is so diverse, and he's gotten at least a few throws in the last couple of weeks. But let's see. In this Bears game, he was actually their leading running back with 11 carries for 52 yards. So any single time you play the Saints, I have no idea what Taysom Hill is going to do. He's either going to do nothing or he's going to be a massive part of the game plan, and he has a good chance of beating you. How that will get implemented with the Vikings, I'm not really sure. Considering they blitz a ton, I think that would give the Saints an opportunity to use Hill in pretty decent situations if they're not able to get Kamara going. But yeah, just the guy to obviously keep an eye on. I do expect a little bit of an emotional letdown for the Vikings, like I mentioned, because, I mean, I don't know how you match the adrenaline of what you went through against the Falcons, but you're still going to be at home. Josh Dobbs is still going to be a very motivated individual to have a really good game. He might force a few things because of that, but he's going to be in front of probably a home crowd that has never embraced him like this in the NFL before. He's going to want to play awesome in front of those home fans. And I think they will. I think the Vikings will get a win against New Orleans. I don't trust them. They just look so ugly against the Bears. I think the Vikings will win, continue this winning streak with a 25-21 victory. I don't think Dobbs will play as well as he did against the Falcons, but I still think he is able to do enough to lead the Vikings to a victory. And I'm still just like Artis said, I don't know what Taysom Hill's going to be any single week. You don't really know what Derek Carr's going to be like either. And he might have a decent game, but I don't think he's going to elevate the Saints enough to get a victory at US Bank Stadium. I think the Vikings continue to roll with Josh Dobbs as their starting quarterback. 25-21. So
I'm so sick of Taysom Hill. This guy's 33. Can you retire already?
I know.
It's just,
I know.
No, and hear me out. It's not that I don't like him. It's not that I don't like him. I hate the conversation, the dialogue around him. Is he good? Obviously, yes. But also no, because I know he doesn't do it's the jack of all trades, master of none. But the thing is, he is good at certain things. If you put him on any other team, is he good? I'm not sure. He's never going to leave New Orleans. He's a treasure, but yet nobody wants him too. It's so crazy. Plus, the amount of times that I had to go up with this guy, I lost to him the week that he played quarterback because I put him in the tight end slot. Just devious behavior. That should be illegal. You deserve jail time for that. That should have been illegal. ESPN fantasy. Why'd you let that happen? But
sheesh.
No,
so you don't get point if you put him at tight end. You don't get points if he throws a touchdown.
Well, no, let me explain this to you. He so it's like if your running back catches a pass, he obviously gets he gets that. There was a week where who was their quarterback? I think it was Jameis was hurt or something like that. But anyway, they didn't have a quarterback, an actual quarterback. So they played him, but he is listed at the time. He was listed as a tight end in fantasy. But so people picked him up and put him in the tight end slot. And then he threw for 2 touchdowns and ran in 2 touchdowns because they would just get down to the 4-yard line and run a sweep with him or whatever. So he had a 4-touchdown day as a tight end passing. He had 200 passing yards. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think they've cracked down on that this year because he's only a tight end. He's only available as a tight end so far this year. I think.
but then they changed the next week to where his positioning was a quarterback so that you couldn't put him in the tight end slot. It was ridiculous. People were throwing it. Yeah, it was the biggest cheat code ever. And frankly, I'm more mad that I didn't do it. I'm more mad that I didn't because all those people had that unspoken bond of playing Taysom Hill quarterback in their tight end slot in week 13, 2021 or whatever it was. And it was a magical weekend for them. But oh God, him as a person, him as a player, he's good. I get it. But him as the football entity, Taysom Hill, get out of the league. I'm so sick of you.
He's chaos.
I'm so sick of you.
He's just chaos, just pure and utter chaos.
That's
you
tough.
never know. You never know. He's Pandora's box, Mr. Taysom Hill.
I do want to. I know we have to wrap this up, but I do want to hear you guys' thoughts because as we were doing our predictions, I popped on Twitter. I'll be honest. I popped on Twitter.
Thanks for paying attention.
Only because Twitterverse, NBA basketball Twitterverse is lighting up over these Showtime Minnesota Timberwolves. First off, they got the best look in the league on tonight.
Oh, this court tonight looks sick. Yeah.
They stole the ball. Naz Reid steals the ball, spin move, stretch pass, lob off the backboard, alley-oop. They are absolutely, who are they playing? They're blowing out the Pelicans, and they're doing it with style. And I don't think the league is ready. I think I might actually have to start going to Wolves games.
What?
Also, is it too early for me to cash in on my write that down from 2 weeks ago where I was like, Anthony, can I upgrade it?
Sure, why not?
What was it?
I said Anthony Edwards will get significant for him and
for MVP.
MVP votes. I mean, the guy closed things out. He was the best player on the floor against the Celtics in that win. They've now beat 2 undefeated teams in the Celtics and the Nuggets who at the time they handed them their first loss. Are the Wolves? Should I say it? Should I say it, everybody? Should I wait?
Get it, man. Say it. Might as well.
Are the Wolves good?
Listen,
dun, dun.
I will say this. Their defense has been sensational.
Okay.
Let's start there. Their defense has been
defense.
super impressive. One of the best defenses. I think last time I checked, they were like #1 in defensive efficiency.
Sensational.
Their
Is
defense
good.
so far has been spectacular.
Spectacular is good.
Anthony Edwards has been on a tear.
Yep.
Being on a tear is good.
This is going to be like my last words, but I'm glad you brought it up. He had 31 the other night against Atlanta, 24 against Denver, 31 again against Utah, 38 against the Celtics, and basically closed that game out off
overtime.
Locked up Jason Tatum with 5 fouls, which is hard to do. That is not an easy thing to do. So he's been playing. That's not bad. Impressive. I mean, it's special. He's playing like. Remember before the season started, I said I think we might start having those conversations this year about him being a top 5 guy. Right now, he's averaging like 28 points a game.
Yep.
And I think that other stars, he's like that's number 9th in the league right now. I think other stars are going to start to taper off a little bit, and Anthony Edwards might taper off as well some as the season progresses. But if he can stay in that 25 to 27 range per game and continue to give that offensive output, shooting, what was it? Last time I checked, 52% from the field, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit at that point. Because then I think Karl Anthony Towns will get it going. I think the defense will stay what it is. Jaden McDaniels playing great defense. Listen, they look very good so far.
He is shooting 47% from 3 right now.
Yeah.
And this is Anthony Edwards, who still, in that Celtics game, jacked up a lot of kind of dumb shots at the end of the game where even Chris Finch, it was at the end saying, yeah, we probably need to move the ball a little bit more towards the end of the game and not just rely on the hero ball. And this is still happening. I said what, Ant? My prediction that he's going to make second All-NBA this year.
Yeah.
That's looking pretty good. That's speaking of things that AJ likes that are good. That's looking pretty good as well. I'm not willing to say that the Timberwolves have turned a corner yet. Still need a little bit more. I still need to see the team. I still remember the Atlanta loss. That was really bad, and I need to see a couple more wins strung together. But you do this against the Nuggets and the Celtics. That's about as best as you can ask from this team right now. And mind you, Karl Anthony Towns isn't playing well right now. Karl Anthony Towns did not have a good game against the Celtics. And by the way, if Rudy Gobert keeps up these kind of defensive numbers, I mean, this is defensive player of the year a couple years ago, Rudy Gobert. I don't know what he may have had to do in the offseason to play this inspired, but it looks even different from last year. So this is one of the most encouraging starts to a season the Wolves have had in very recent memory. And I know that there's still a little. Jaden McDaniels, I think, had a really bad shooting end against the Celtics too. So he isn't even playing at his peak performance right now. So this is looking good, as AJ said. This is looking pretty good. So
I'm gonna tease it. I'm not going to give them the official good stamp yet because they're tickling it though. Let me tell you. So they're up 21 right now over the Pelicans with 7.5 minutes left. But they're going to go on the road and they have the Spurs and that freak Wembanyama, in a good way. I just want to clarify, freak in a good way. Well, also kind of looking because like that's not a normal human being.
Yeah.
Then they have the Warriors twice. Then the Suns on the road. And then they're going to go smack the Pelicans at the Smoothie King Stadium or Smoothie King Arena. And then they come back home to the Knicks on the 20th. So they have 2 games against the Warriors before we talk again next, gentlemen. So,
and write this down right now. They will beat the Warriors at home. They will.
So they'll split?
They'll split against Golden State. The Warriors are awful at Target Center. Throughout Steph Curry's career, they just have not won very much at Target Center for whatever reason. Guaranteeing it right now.
Are they both? Are they both on the road?
Oh, are they? I assume they were both it was a split, home and home.
See,
you know what? You're right. The NBA started doing that after COVID, where they literally have back-to-back games on the road. Both of those games are in Golden State. Both of those games are in Golden State. The NBA started doing this a couple years ago, where they'd play teams in the same city back-to-back games.
Because the second game is the start of the in-season tournament for the Wolves.
Oh,
no, they actually start that this Friday when they travel down to San Antonio to take on the Spurs. That's their first game of the in-season tournament. And then, so that's what it is. So they do have back-to-back games. So Sunday and Tuesday, they're out in Golden State. Okay. That's going to be my telling point. I think they can beat the Spurs just because it's the Spurs. Obviously, they have a little talent now, but and this is frankly, people should know who listen, an uneducated opinion on the NBA. But I'm trying.
Good.
I'm like,
great.
I'm like, what is it, Jules in I'm like Samuel Jackson's character in Pulp Fiction. I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying hard. Trying to walk
doing well
the path. Yeah,
doing well though.
So damn good burger. I'm sorry.
No, that's such a good drop. Anyways,
Royale with cheese.
So I will talk a little more Wolves next week. I think that's going to be our new week's resolution. That's our goal next week, is to talk a little more Wolves.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And if we want to sprinkle in some Minnesota Wild conversation too, they were wheeling and dealing today, trading for Zach Bogosian, trading away Kalen Addison. Yeah, plenty of puck to be talked about. Kalen Addison, kind of an up and down career with the Minnesota Wild, but best of luck in San Jose. Plenty to talk about across all the sports teams, and obviously the Minnesota Vikings keep us very busy. We will be glued to anything that happens with the team, but obviously we got the Timberwolves and the Wild. A lot of things going on as well. But gentlemen, we're a little bit over. We got to get out of here. Any final thoughts before we wrap up Taxi Squad for the week?
No, sir. Hope everybody has an amazing week.
Right on. Cool. All right.
Let's hopefully Houston, we have no problems with the Pasternaut this weekend.
I see what you did there. All right. Yeah. Let's see what the Vikings can do against the New Orleans Saints. We will be back next week to break it all down and to preview the Sunday night football game against the Denver Broncos. My name is Jason Stormer. We got AJ Fredrickson and Artis Woods. This is the SKOR North Taxi Squad. You can check us out on SKORNorth.com, SKOR North mobile app, Apple, Spotify, and if you want to see our beautiful faces, the SKOR North YouTube channel is the best place to go for that. Right? All right. Until next week, everybody, we will talk to you then. Thanks for listening to the SKOR North Taxi Squad. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.